Number 10. This happened when I was a freshman at a college in Boston, about 10 years ago. The campus was urban and was in the middle of downtown. Not your traditional college campus. Kind of a cluster of college buildings on a city street in front of a park. The area's got a lot better since the school's expanded, but when I went there, it was a bit rough at night. A few junkies and homeless people would wander around, and there were periodic muggings in the park. My roommates and I were all up late doing homework. We were hungry and wanted junk food, but all of the stores in college buildings were closed, and it was a weekday, so our beloved pizza place wasn't open late. That left 7-Eleven. All of the students were explicitly warned by college staff not to go to the 7-Eleven at night, especially alone. It was located right in the buffer zone between a rougher neighbourhood and the college. The 7-Eleven actually closed for a few hours at night to prevent robberies. Usually, there would be a few sketchy characters out front, just hanging out or trying to sell random stuff that was clearly stolen, like cell phone chargers or other items that you'd find in a car. Well, my three roommates and I, all being young college girls, chose junk food over personal safety. We thought that no one would bother us if we all went together. We bundled up and did the 2.5 block walk to 7-Eleven. Our dorm was a straight shot down the street until you reached the other dorm. You turned, and then 7-Eleven was half a block that way. There was a big semi-truck with a trailer parked on the side of the street, so you were obscured from anyone on the street. But we reached the store without incident. There were 4 sketchy looking older men out front, but we ignored them and went in to buy our chips, raw cookie dough, and sodas. The 4 of us walked out, and all 4 of the sketchy guys abruptly turned, fanned out into a line, and started closely following us. I don't remember much about what they looked like, but they all wore ragged clothes, and I vividly remember they all walked with a predatory swagger. We immediately realised what was happening, but we were all dumb 18-year-olds, and didn't really know what to do but keep moving. We got to the part of the sidewalk that was blocked by the semi and started speed walking, knowing that no one would be able to see us if they tried something. Stupidly, we didn't run, as that would spur them into attacking. Anytime we sped up, they sped up. We managed to keep distance between us until we passed the truck. We finally got to the corner, pivoted, and then ran into the first dorm, even though it wasn't the one we lived in. The 4 guys went to follow us in, but saw the uniformed security guard at desk and kept walking. As we caught our breath and shivered about our encounter, one of my roommates went to the front door and peered around the side. You guys, they're waiting for us. The 4 guys were 2 building lengths down the sidewalk, in a cluster, watching the dorm building. My roommates and I stayed in the building's lobby for 30 minutes, until the sketchballs finally crossed the street and wandered off into the park. I tried to convince my roommates to get a security guard to escort us back to our dorm, but my boy crazy roommate recruited a couple guys to walk us back instead. I don't know what they were planning, but I never went back to that store at night, even when I thought we had strength in numbers. Number 9. After having my son, I usually need to go for a wee in the middle of the night. I just can't hold it in like I used to. TMI, I guess, but that's the reason I was awake around 2 AM on a bank holiday Monday. Our flat has a long hallway, and our bedroom is at one end, and the bathroom is at the other end, so I walked down the hallway to go for a wee. I had my wee, then heard the secure communal downstairs door bang. We can usually hear our neighbours come and go, and I thought it was slightly weird at this hour, so I looked through the peephole of our door. There was this chick, makeup on, and a little tiny black dress, walking straight for my front door. This freaked me out completely, as I was naked behind the door. I'd never seen her before in my life, and our block of flats is secured with an entry system, so someone had to buzz her in. So she comes to the door and tries the door handle. When she realises the door won't budge, she starts really shaking the handle and pushing the door aggressively. When she realises the door won't open, she starts banging on it loudly with her fist. At this point, I ran to tell my husband, who is an ex-forces wall of man, tattooed and hairy, and at this point, naked from the waist up. He runs to the door, unlocks it, and asks her what the fuck she thinks she's doing. Without a second thought, she turns and bolts, never to be seen again. And we don't hear the bottom door bang as she leaves, so we think she's still in the flats. But she's nowhere to be seen. Just a bit of context. Our home is up a quiet side street that is closed at one end, so the only people who can come up our road are people who have the business to be here. Cars have to turn around and go back down, and people walking can't access anywhere else from our street. The flat is securely locked at the bottom with a secure entry system, and at that time of the morning, I can't imagine anyone buzzing her in, or why she was there. Our block is a block of 4, with a married couple across the hall from us, and then a single older man under us, and a gay man on the opposite side. So, lady who tried to forcibly enter my flat at 2 AM? Let's not meet. Number 8. I would like to start this post off by saying, I was very young, naive, and didn't have the best support at home. This causing a complete lack of awareness when it comes to traumatizing incidents, and I still deal with this today. So yes, I 100% should have filed a report against this man, but never did. Also, this story is pretty fuzzy, as I was 15 at the time, and I'm now 23. Also, I just want to say that I enjoy reading these at work when I am lack of working, so thanks to everyone for taking the time to tell his or her stories. Alright, so here we go. I was 15 years old, dating an 18-year-old guy. Let's call him TJ. This night, TJ and I were going to his uncle's to party. His uncle was pretty chill and didn't mind us drinking and smoking weed at his house. This time, TJ wanted to bring an old childhood friend with him. His name was Peter. We spent most of the night getting booze and snacks before heading back to TJ's uncle's. Peter joined us in the car. He was very polite, would open the car door for me, seemed very chivalrous and all that. We chatted when TJ was grabbing food, and we were left alone together. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, just a genuine nice person. He told me about his missions, how he's a Mormon, and has never drank alcohol or smoked before. It made me feel comfortable and safe, but little did I know, Peter was ready to start sinning the fuck out of the night. So, this was the first time Peter had partied. It was fine. TJ and him were close friends. It was going to be relaxing, and a fun night for the three of us. We started drinking and smoking in the garage, hanging out. Everything was good. TJ and I got a little randy and headed upstairs to their guest bedroom like the rebellious teens we were. Yeah, we were obviously having sex. But it was fine, because Peter was distracted in the basement by the TV. Until we heard him knock. "Hey, what are you guys doing in there?" He was shouting outside of the door. It was obvious what we were doing, but he wouldn't let up. He started to try to get in, jingling the handle, kicking the door, shouting. This was the first what the fuck moment of the night. He finally disappeared after we told him to get lost. So we headed downstairs after, questioning him a little bit why he needed to get in so bad. He didn't say much and laughed it off. We drank a little bit more, then the night came to a close. We slept on a sectional couch. TJ and I on the one side, together spooning, and Peter on the other. I was on the inside of the couch, and TJ on the outside. I was completely protected by TJ. Keep in mind, I was 15 and very intoxicated. It took me a millisecond to pass out, and here's when it got weird. I felt someone in my pants, but I couldn't be sure. I kept moving around, telling TJ to fuck off and that I'm trying to sleep. I bumped TJ, and he woke up. We both looked and saw Peter standing over us. At that time, it was very confusing, and we had been in a drunk sleep for a while. Peter simply said, "I'm just saying goodnight." We thought nothing of it. It was a little strange, but it didn't cross our minds. Later, I woke up to go to the bathroom. Something didn't feel right. I told TJ to come upstairs with me. I asked him why he was so eager to be in my pants, that it actually hurt and was very uncomfortable. I'll never forget his face. He replied, I wasn't." That's when we both realised that Peter had reached over TJ and gotten to me and into my pants. He had no problem reaching over his childhood friend and doing that to his girlfriend. Obviously, my boyfriend at the time lost his mind and kicked him out. He later sent a long letter to TJ, stating that he needed his apology to move forward with his missions. He did not grant him with an apology, for obvious reasons. Moral of the story? You never know who you can't trust. Peter seemed 100% trustworthy and polite. And, of course, booze and weed can make you act stupid. Also, if you ever run into this type of encounter, report the incident right away. This was completely irresponsible, regardless of the substances that were involved. Thanks for letting me share this. It felt good to type out as horrible as it was. So, creepy Peter, let's never meet again. Number 7. I've always lurked on Let's Not Meet, but decided to post this today. It's always been at the back of my mind. I'm 23 now. Let me explain this house we lived in. It was an upstairs downstairs, and up the stairs there was one bedroom, long hallway to the bathroom, and that's where I was. So I started a new job. I was 20 at the time. I was a trainee at the hairdressers. I spent the whole day on my feet, making coffees, tea, and brushing up the hair on the floor. It doesn't seem like hard work, but the hairdressers was very busy because a bride was in with all the bridesmaids, trying to figure out different hairstyles, so I had to stay a little bit longer. I started at 9 and finished at 5, so after my shift, all I could think about was a nice warm bath. My legs were killing me. I lived with my boyfriend, who was out of town doing some jobs for his dad to help pay the rent. It was a fairly nice house. It belonged to his brother, who allowed us to move in. As soon as I got home, I relaxed for a bit, then went up the stairs. I ran my bath, locked the door and got in. So at this point, I was drifting away in a very relaxing hot bath. But then I heard a noise on the stairs and it startled me. I convinced myself I was being paranoid, because I don't like being home alone. But then I heard it again. It was like someone was slowly sneaking up the stairs. I lay still in the bath, making sure the water didn't splash. While I was doing this, I listened, and I wasn't being paranoid. Someone was sneaking up the stairs very slowly, step by step. I'm lying in the bath, terrified, with tears running down my face. The noise had moved from the stairs to the hallway, and it was getting closer. Closer, until it stopped, right outside my bathroom door. I froze. No movement, and I even held my breath. I don't know how long this happened for, but it felt like hours. I could hear breathing against the door. A faint tap on the door. I stayed quiet and prayed they didn't bust the door down. This must have lasted a few minutes, but it felt like hours. My fear was confirmed. Very loud feet were making their way back down the stairs, and my back door slammed open. I jumped out of the bath, ran down the hall, and grabbed the phone which we had in our bedroom, straight back to the bathroom, and locked the door. So I called the police. My skin was wrinkled from the water. I was shaking, crying on the phone to the operator. She told me to stay in the bathroom with the door locked until 2 police officers would come, and she would tell me when they were there. Dripping wet, with my back pressed against the bathroom door, shivering, I waited. We stayed on the phone until the police came. They checked the back and front door. The back door was open. I stayed in the bathroom until the police officer shouted up it was safe to come out. And he did. He shouted up, and I ran down the stairs like my life depended on it. The woman officer calmed me down while I told her what had happened. She asked me if it could have been my boyfriend or anyone I knew. The answer was no. His brother had moved away. My family don't live near me anymore, and my boyfriend was out of town. He was at his dad's helping with a job. Nothing was took. Everything was in place, except the back door being opened. They took my statement and told me was there anywhere I could go? And honestly, the answer was no. I was told to get a security system, like an alarm. The police did a great job. I felt so much better they checked the house, around the neighbourhood, and even warned the neighbours. I couldn't get hold of my boyfriend until he came home. I told him what happened, and he was shocked. And then the neighbour had someone try to break into their house later during the night. Now I'm 23, and I no longer live in that house. I'm still with my boyfriend, and have a huge dog, a German Shepherd who's a guard dog. But I still fear taking baths. I have a nightlight which goes off when someone enters our garden, and a security system. As for the person who did it, They never caught him. Number 6. So this happened in 2014, when I was 11. I was home alone because my mum went to a work function and my dad was overseas, and my younger brother was staying at a friend's house. This is not to say I had no friends, they were just all busy. I was on my computer listening to music and doing my homework, like a good child, and I heard the front door open and then shut. At first I thought it was my mum, but the set of footprints didn't sound like my mum's high heels. Thank God my brother was a cricket fan. I grabbed his cricket bat and crept down the stairs. I heard a clatter in the kitchen and I was shaking really badly. When I got down to the kitchen, there was no one there. Suddenly, the kitchen door slammed shut. I ran to the door, but it wouldn't open, as if someone was holding the doorknob on the other side. I started to scream, but the person wouldn't leave, and the doorknob wouldn't budge. There was a noise outside. I looked out of the kitchen window, and although it was dark, I could make out a figure. His face looked right at me, and ran toward the window, right for me. His fist banged against the window. I couldn't get out of the door. I was completely trapped. The kitchen door began to open, and I was now screaming my throat out, but no one could hear me. The door was fully open now, and as I peered out, I saw nothing. No one there. The other man was still smashing on the window. I could hear it breaking. I ran out of the kitchen, grabbed a phone, and locked myself in my parents' walk-in wardrobe. I called 000 and my mother. They both arrived about 10 minutes later, but it seemed like hours. When they arrived, the men were gone. The window was broken, but there was no sign of them. I was in too much panic to remember what the men looked like, and I only saw one of them anyway. The cops never caught the men who did it. I hope no one else has to suffer what I did. Number 5. I'm a closing manager for a major movie theatre chain. My location is in a semi-major city in the southwest region of the United States. I'm a female college student and a night owl, so I always get assigned these late night shifts. The part of town that my location is in isn't regarded as a safe part of town for many reasons. It was a slow Wednesday night, and I was already well ahead of my schedule with my duties for the night, and was helping my employees stock in the concession area. I had already locked the front doors, the usher was almost done with his work for the night, the box office attendant had one more hour, and the concession attendant was scheduled to get out with me and the other manager in about 2 hours. There are 3 levels of access in my theatre. There's customer access that consists of locations that are accessible to customers and essentially everyone. There's employee access, which is protected by a keypad lock. Then there's the manager access, which requires a key to access. I was going into an employee access area, where all of the paper products were stored. I was intending on bringing back a box of napkins to stock the concession area with. So, the concession area is connected to the entrance lobby area of the building. Theatres 1 through 8 are in order down an open hallway immediately to the right of the concession area after the ticket taker's podium. Theatres 9 through 14 are in a hallway that is perpendicular to the main hallway. It forks off just in front of the men's room and Theatre 4. The employee access closet I was getting into was directly in front of Theatre 9 and to the right of Theatre 14. There is a bench right at this area where a customer was sitting. He seemed to be minding his own business as I arrived to the closet. The box office attendant for the night had concerns about this man because he appeared to be drunk at the counter, but while I was taking my break, the other manager on that night approved the transaction. He was supposed to be there with another friend. I didn't think much about this at first, because while he seemed to be looking at me, I just figured he was bored and waiting for someone. I proceed to key in the code for the closet and enter. I noticed rather quickly that he tried to shoot the gap as the door closed. I decided to try shutting the door as hard as I could. I was uncertain that it would get to him in time, but I figured I could at least catch his fingers with the door and buy myself enough time to draw the box cutter I had on my person. Thankfully for me, the door closed in time. He pounded on the door yelling, "Let me in!" at the top of his lungs. He also tried guessing the keypad code and keying it in. All of my scheduled closing employees and the other manager were still in various areas of the building at this point. We communicate using headsets and radios. I called for 2 people to meet me at the floor closet. I was calm and collected, but pressed that it was an urgent matter. The other manager and the usher came to meet me within a minute of my call. The usher helped the man outside, and the other manager came to walk me out. The guy was refusing to leave, claiming that he had items in the theatre still. As the usher tells him, there were minibar bottles of liquor everywhere around his seat. This friend that he was allegedly supposed to be meeting that night was also nowhere to be found. This guy should have been in Theatre 9, in front of the closet I was getting into. I gather the boxes I was supposed to bring outside from this trip and bring them to the concession stand. We have large windows and glass doors throughout the lobby. I could see him outside, staring through the doors at me for several minutes. I decide to call the police. He is arrested after not leaving the spot. They charged him with public intoxication for the large amounts of alcohol he consumed in the theatre. But he wasn't charged with the closet incident because we couldn't prove his intentions. We looked up his name after we had him formally banned from the premises upon his arrest. These sorts of records are all public in my state, so we could see everything he'd been charged with. The results were chilling. He had been arrested for voyeurism with a victim under 18, an attempted rape about 10 years ago, and had only been out of prison for about a year, as well as a laundry list of other related crimes before that. We haven't seen him around since, thankfully. Number 4. This happened in 1998, the summer that I was 4, and I was finally allowed to go to the playground down the street from my house by myself, if one of my parents was in the front lawn. We lived in a newer suburban area, which was made up of basically all young families with kids, so they figured it would be safe. And I took advantage of every chance I got. One July afternoon, my mum was cleaning out her car, laying all the mats on the lawn and vacuuming everything out. I was bored of watching her clean, and after some prodding on my part, she reluctantly agreed. So I skipped down the street, stopping to pet a neighbour's cat, her name was Muffin, before arriving at the park. I climbed on the jungle gym for a while, just enjoying the warm weather and humming to myself, until I heard a man clear his throat. I turned around and shielded my eyes from the sun, trying to get a good look at him. But with how bright the sun actually was, I could only really make out his silhouette. He was standing at least 30 feet or something away on a small hill, which at the time had a wide metal slide coming down from it. "Hi, little girl," he said, trying to sound friendly. "You look like Bubbles. Do you like Bubbles from the Powerpuff Girls? You look just like her." I nervously said that I did, and he continued to talk and tried to coax me up the hill. "I think Bubbles is the cutest. Did your mummy help with those pigtails? Come here and let me see them. I have some Powerpuff Girls toys in my car. You might like some of them and take them home. You should come with me and see if you want any." I continued to refuse all his offers, and I became increasingly uncomfortable. I remember mentioning that my stomach hurt and that I should go, and in retrospect, it was probably panic causing me pain. He didn't make any attempts to move from the hill, but I noticed his hand moving up and down in his pocket, and something straining against the front of his jeans. At the time, I obviously didn't know anything about what he was doing, but I had a strong gut feeling that it was something very bad. I was very blonde at that age, though as I got older, my hair turned dark brown. When I was 4, it was basically platinum blonde. I was also wearing a light blue summer dress and little black shoes. So I suppose I did look very similar to the cartoon character, but every time he called me Bubbles, it made me want to vomit. "Come up here, little Bubbles. I have a trick to show you. If you sit on my lap and we go down this slide together, we can go extra fast." He was talking very quickly, almost in a panic. He kept repeating that I should come to his car to see all the toys he had. I was frozen on top of the jungle gym, and I just kept repeating "no" and "I don't want to." Suddenly, his voice got louder and took on a tinge of annoyance. "Come on, little girl, I haven't got all day, do you want the toys or not? There's lots of them, probably more than all the toys at your home put together. I'm parked just over there." He started to walk down the hill slowly, still touching himself through the jeans, whispering under his breath that I was such a pretty child, and that we'd have so much fun together. This is when I got a better look at him. He was probably in his late 20s or early 30s, and he actually didn't look like a stereotypical creep. He actually looked pretty respectable. He looked like most of the young fathers around the neighbourhood looked. He was white, with neat dark hair and dark eyes. The worst thing about him was the wild look in his eyes as he continued to touch himself and ambled toward the jungle gym. I stood still, frozen in fear as he approached the jungle gym, and stooped a little to try look up my dress. When I backed up instinctively, he said he just wanted to see my little shoes, and that he thought they were very nice. Then he reached for my ankle. My sock folded down under his grasp, and I was able to slip away. I scrambled down the monkey bars on the other side, and ran down the street to my house. I only looked back once, and when I did, he was standing at the entrance to the playground. His hand was now entirely down his pants. I got back to my front yard, and as I tearfully explained what happened, I saw a van tear away from behind the playground, and he was gone. We never heard anything about that man ever again, but I really hope he never got his hands on any other little kids. I'm in university now, but I still have nightmares about it sometimes. I remember I was too upset at the time, and had this weird sickly feeling in my stomach, so I couldn't even eat my dinner that night. After this happened, I got that same feeling in my stomach whenever the Powerpuff Girls came on TV. Even though I still loved watching it, that momentary panic hit me every time. So, creepy paedophile at the playground? I hope I never have to come in contact with you again. Number 3. I lived on a U-shaped street growing up. On my side, there were 6 houses. 3 of them had boys. My family had the only girls. We were all friends and had neighbourhood block parties, flag football. Everyone got along and played well together. We had that one friend whose parents never let you come into their house, and if you did, usually you were there with your parent. It was the summer of 5th grade, and on a whim, a few of us decided to skateboard, which led into tag around the house, next to the house we could never go in. It was a little before noon, and I had rounded the corner, running, when Mr. B stuck his head out from the carport door and asked me to come over. I obliged. He'd asked me to take a look at some photos for a surprise for his wife's birthday, and he wanted my opinion on them. I felt really grown up with such a task, and was somewhat excited about it. When I entered, all seemed normal, no big deal. He had gone into his bedroom, which was just off the kitchen, to retrieve the photos, when I heard him call my name. I peeped through the door just a little, unsure of going in. I wasn't allowed in my parents' room, so I was a little taken aback. Anyways, I do what I'm told, and follow him over to the dresser, where he opens a drawer and pulls out pictures, which back then were Polaroids. I'm in total disbelief. It feels like a dream, as he's showing me these photos of him naked, spread eagle on his sofa. My fight or flight kicks in, as he's asking me if I'd like to take a few of him with his camera, and if he could take a few of me. I run quickly out of the door, through the kitchen, outside, where I run to my house and lock the door. I did inform my folks, but they just said not to go back, and that was basically it. My neighbourhood didn't look quite the same after, and as soon as I was old enough, I left, and never went back. Mr. B was a total creep. I'm thankful I've not run into him since in this town. It changed my perspective on life in general. I'm a mum of 3 girls now, and I absolutely do not sugarcoat things. They are well informed on the things that could happen, and hopefully they will always be smarter than me and never have to encounter such things. Number 2. After reading through some of the stories on here, I realised I actually have a few messed up encounters of my own. This one is no different, and took place when I was 17 with an ex-boyfriend, who wasn't the weirdo on this occasion. My boyfriend and I at the time had been dating for a few months, and were still very much into each other. Where I am from, it's pretty normal to go and hang around on the moors, as we live quite close to a national park. Obviously, this goes hand in hand with people having sex on the moors at night. It's an accepted thing. So, being 17 and horny, we drove up to the moors to have some fun in the car. We decided, a bit naively, because it was so dark and a nice evening, to get out of the car and have some fun on the bonnet of the car instead. It was a warm evening and was in the middle of nowhere. No one was around, so we figured, why not? Looking back, I realised how silly that was. But we were young and in lust, so weren't really thinking of anything other than just fucking. So we are going at it on the bonnet, him standing up with his trousers around his ankles, and me naked from the waist down, when I noticed a red light in the bushes. I froze up completely, and he asked what was wrong. I told him what I could see, and he turned around slowly, to then notice a man's face near the red light. He told me to get in the car, and he followed. We didn't stop to see what or who it was, and we certainly didn't attempt to talk to the man. A few weeks later, a young couple were chased off the same area by a man with a knife. I either had a near miss with a madman, or unwittingly became a porn star, assuming the red light was a camera. So, guy in the bushes who may or may not have been a murderer? Let's not meet. Number 1. When I was almost 5, I was hanging out with my mum in a kind of small square in our district, when she decided to buy some bread. So we headed to the bread shop at the other end of the square. However, it was full of people, and my mum, thinking she could be in and out in a matter of minutes, left me on a bench made of marble that was no more than 16 feet from the shop and went in. So there I was, sitting, looking around and minding my own business, when all of a sudden, a guy who seemed to be homeless, around 40 years old, came near me and, almost in an agitated manner, opened a plastic bag in front of me. The bag contained some empty plastic bottles. Meanwhile, he says to me stuff like, "Do you like these toys? I got more in the car. Do you want to play with them?" I, being the sweet, innocent and clueless child I was, immediately responded, "Hold on, I have to ask Mummy first." And so, I kind of walked calmly towards the shop, entered, and innocently asked Mummy if I could play with the man outside. Needless to say, the look on her face said it all. I don't remember much after that, other than me, outside the shop, trying to point and locate the man, as Mum requested. The strange thing is, even in my late years, I understood the terrible danger or threat I dodged. I don't remember it as an episode that traumatized me. Maybe because, as a child, I couldn't understand the gravity of the situation, and maybe that's for the better. Anyway, I vividly remember the man as an anxious type, and seemed a bit off, a bit crazy to say. So, not as suasive and gentle as a, let's say, paedophile would pose himself. So, yeah. Strange man that tried to show me his toys. Let's not meet again. Well, anyway guys, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed, then please leave a like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Now this is my 10th episode of Let's Not Meet, and I am really loving all of the support on this series so far. If you have any stories of your own, which you would like to have shared, then please make sure to contact me, and you may be featured in a future video. Well, anyway, I hope to see you soon, and I'll speak to you later.